That's a little disrespectful to the to the position. As a great tight end, you hear Tebow just wants to try out as a tight end. What is your thought on that?
I don't have any problem with it. I think, first of all, Urban Meyer and Tebow are very close, so it makes sense that Urban would give his guy a shot. Tebow's a heck of an athlete. You know, when I look at this position, I watch it year in and year out. There's 20 guys that are good. There's 10 that are outstanding. But you get to the 2s and 3s on a lot of teams, and there's a lot of guys that, in my opinion, shouldn't be on the field or are just filling a role. And so can Tebow do that and kind of find his way into things? Maybe. We'll find out. There's a lot of nuance to the position.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. A quarterback to tight end transitioning. I mean, I just think to myself, Tim Tebow, hand in the dirt, blocking a defensive end. That's what comes to me. He better have his mouthpiece in. I mean, what will be the one or two things that we don't talk about that he's going to have to figure out?
See, I just don't know if you put Tim Tebow's hand in the dirt. It's almost like all of these new quarterbacks coming in that have never played under center. You don't transition them to a complete under center quarterback. To me, he's more of an H-back. If you want Tim Tebow to play tight end for you, he's that move position. You're putting him in a slot every once in a while. You're putting him in the backfield. You're letting him kind of move around. You're letting him stay in an up stance. Now, as it comes to blocking, he's got a lot to figure out there. Toughness, I think Tebow has. And so I appreciate that, and I think he'll have a chance there. But you start talking about simple footwork and leverage and understanding how defensive ends and outside linebackers play and where you want to put your hands on them, what your hat placement needs to be, or your helmet placement needs to be. All those little things that manipulate a defensive end are things that guys pick up over time, and we'll see. Maybe he can. Yeah, I think he'll be an okay route runner. I think he's athletic enough. Quarterbacks can always catch very well. They catch more balls than anyone else because everyone's got to throw it back to them every time.
That's a good point. So a couple of things to talk about. So some issues here. Washington, I've said they're the enigma in the league. So good defense, playoff team, weak division. They should make it again. What I wouldn't do at quarterback is get a gunslinger who loses me games I've outcoached the team with Ron Rivera. And they get Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I think, no. Just give me Teddy Bridgewater. I can win 11 games with Teddy Bridgewater. My defense will keep us. I mean, Alex Smith didn't play particularly well, went 5-1 last year. Explain the Ryan Fitzpatrick's our guy quarterback on this roster, because I don't get it.
Yeah, Colin, I don't know if I totally get it either. And that doesn't mean that I don't like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I respect him. I think he's incredibly bright. He's intelligent. He makes a ton of throws. I mean, amazingly enough, the last couple of years, his QBR has been really pretty high. But I'm with you. I think this team is a team that needs a quarterback. And I don't know, is Fitzpatrick this year? Is it maybe next year? But they had a chance to move up and probably take a guy where there was some talent around the quarterback. They have a very good defense. They have great weapons with Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson and Logan Thomas came on last year. And I think you could have protected a young quarterback if you went up and got him this year. It'll be interesting what Fitzpatrick does in a Scott Turner offense. You know, watching them last year, they didn't really take a lot of shots down the field. And I didn't know if that was all by design or just not knowing if the quarterback could do it. Right. I mean, it was crazy watching Alex. So I'll be interested if he can just play ball control, because that's really what the guy's going to have to do or needs to do if they want to win 8, 9, 10 games.
So you were with Kyle Shanahan when he was the coordinator in Washington. He is now the coach of the Niners. What is Trey Lance? How complex is the offense? How long does it take to master a Kyle Shanahan offense? You would know.
Well, I think there's a ton to Kyle Shanahan's offense, but what Kyle's going to do is slowly build around what Trey Lance does very well. If you think back to 2012, they remastered the Mike Shanahan offense for Robert Griffin and became a zone read type offense. And that was kind of pre-RPO. They'll take their time with him. They'll get him in a lot of the boot stuff where he's able to make, one side of the field type reads, go top of the progression, down, easy stuff there. Let him use his legs if he needs to use his legs. And it'll be a slow build. I think back to that offense with Robert, and it was it was a really successful offense, which was changed completely. The only hard thing for Robert was some of the third down concepts and some of the third down defenses that he faced or that he had to see. And I'll never forget Kyle saying, Robert, if you don't like it, you're the check down. And Trey Lance has the ability to do that. I mean, he's not running into end zones with penguins written in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's playing against real NFL dudes. I think he'll adapt okay, and Kyle will do an excellent job slow playing it so he understands it and plays within his grasp.
You went to the same school as Jordan Love. A couple days ago, the GM of the Packers said he's got a long way to go. Obviously, you want to support people from Utah State where you went to school. But, you know, it's funny. Jordan Love had 32 college starts. Chris, that's a lot. I mean, some of these guys, Kyler Murray was playing baseball half the time. He got 15. He's got 32 college starts, and they say, quote, he's got a long way to go. That makes me think, ooh, boy, maybe he wasn't a first-round quarterback. Or am I being too harsh?
I think he has a long way to go. Some of the intangibles make him a first-round quarterback. I haven't had a chance to meet Jordan and play catch with Jordan. I mean, he's a big kid. He has a big arm. He's smart. He likes ball. But it's amazing. You know, I was there his junior year where I thought he had an excellent year, and spending some time talking with that coaching staff who's now at Texas Tech, they had a lot of non-play calls, just look to the sideline and give the receiver a number. And sometimes it wasn't even the entire group of receivers. And he switched his senior year to a new staff and with Gary Anderson as a head coach. And it was still, you know, really simplistic. I thought he pressed his senior year. But essentially, Colin, he hasn't really run offense with language. And so when you're talking about what is Matt LaFleur's offense, which is really Kyle Shannon or Sean McVay's offense to some extent, that's the West Coast language. That's where he's got a long way to go. I mean, you get these guys that they got to repeat 16 words back into the huddle after the coach puts it in their ear, and they have to be able to do it fast and fluently. So a long way to go is not just seeing things, understand. It's also being able to lead in the huddle.
Finally, Chris Cooley joining us. Aaron Rodgers, listen, it's I remember 10 years ago when I said I used to work at the other company, and I said, listen, I think he's kind of condescending and prickly. I watch him. I watch his body language. I think he's great, but I don't think he's got, he's not Russell Wilson, Mr. Optimism, or Tom Brady. He's a little bit of his contrarian to what you think the quarterback leadership, thing should be. And it's okay. By the way, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But when you watch that whole thing just erupt, as a guy who played at a Pro Bowl level in the NFL, how do you solve it? Can you solve it? What do you make of the whole mess?
Yeah, to me, he's kind of like Will Ferrell playing Alex Trebek. Trying to deal with the Saturday Night Live cast. Look, I think both parties seem to be at fault a little bit. I always go back to, you agreed to play here. You signed the deal. The fans, the community, the players, so many people are depending on him as a Green Bay Packer. But I do understand where he's saying, then trust me if everybody's doing that. Believe in me. Don't trade up and get Jordan Love. And as far as the Packers, you didn't need to do it. I mean, it worked out with Brett Favre when they went and got Aaron Rodgers, but that year he was essentially the last first-round guy on their board when they took Aaron Rodgers. They traded up for Jordan Love. And to me, that's taking a little bit of shot at your quarterback, who is the MVP of the league. I mean, and is going to have some more good years. Like, I really never understood that move, and I do like Jordan. I see how that really would frustrate Aaron Rodgers, and we're at a point now where some of these guys make so much money that if he does want to hold out, it's going to cost him a ton. Yeah. But I think he can afford it. And so it puts both of them in a really bad situation. Aaron's got to pay a ton of money. He's going to look bad to all the fans. And Green Bay's losing their MVP quarterback if he doesn't show up and play. Yeah, they're both kind of trapped in a weird way because they still own his rights. He could retire. But, when you were in your prime, you don't want to retire. I mean, Did Washington give you a heads up if they ever drafted a tight end when you were in your prime? Did they ever draft one? Yeah, they drafted Fred Davis in the second round out of USC. But tight end's a little bit different because you're talking about an offense. Realistically, if